There's this kid, and his name is Zachary, and he's a 16-year-old high school student who lives in Idaho, I guess. Who cares? And so it's the day of his history fair because he's taking AP US history, and he's presenting on the Civil War. So he's talking about the cool people in the Civil War. I don't actually know who they are, and it doesn't matter. And the presentation is terrible basically, and so the professor is like Professor Hargrove, his teacher, and he's like the cool teacher, but even he's like, you know what, Zachary, like this fucking sucks, and frankly, I don't even want you like in this room right now. So get lost. Like you clearly didn't even follow the outline or the discussion prompts that I gave you or anything. And yeah, this you're not representing our school well. So Zachary just like he's basically like, you know what, Professor Hargrove, I'm glad that your wife divorced you. And he leaves. And he's like, yeah, so he basically just leaves in the middle of the presentation. And so he's walking home and he's like really mad and he like kicks a can across the street and it hits this old homeless guy in the face. And so Zachary's not a bad guy, you know. So he goes across the street and he's like, I am so sorry I did that. I've just been having a really bad day. And so the homeless guy, he takes his like robes off or whatever and he reveals himself to be the Greek god Zeus, right? You know, as you do. And so Zeus is like, okay, so you're gonna need to tell me like what happened because frankly, I'm very upset that that just happened, and so I kind of want to strike a few people down. And so Zachary's like, basically my teacher roasted me in front of the whole class, and I'm really not feeling that, and I'm kind of upset, if I'm being honest. And so he tells him about the entire American Civil War. And Zeus is like, I was in Greece when that was happening. So I was actually kind of curious. I'm grateful that you taught me all about that. And like Zeus doesn't know that the presentation was bad. So he's just taking his word for it. So Zeus and Zachary go back to the school and they zap Professor Hargrove like in the face, killing him instantly, totally eviscerated and just incinerates him. So then Zachary's like, holy shit, I was not expecting that. I thought you were just bullshitting about the god thing. And Zeus is like, yeah, well, you know what? You're a god now too. And so Zachary becomes like the patron god of like bullied children. And so the moral of this story is that don't be sad if you're bullied or taken advantage of because you'll end up in a better place in life than your bullies, probably. At the end.
So basically, there was this kid named Zachary. I mean, I guess he likes his full name, but that's fine. But for the purposes, anyway, he's like 16 and he goes to his high school, and it's like the day of his history fair, and he's taking AP US history. I'm just gonna abbreviate to APUSH because story purposes. And he's presenting about the Civil War, and frankly, his presentation is terrible. So apparently he has a Professor Hargrove, anyway, so the professor stops him in the middle of his presentation. He's like, I hate this presentation, stop, I don't like it, get out. With some extra roasting in front of the class, because teaching at its finest, So basically he's walking home. Actually, no, before he walks home, he's like, you know what, I'm glad your wife divorced you. And then he kind of just walks out of the room, walks home, kicking cans, as you do. One lands in the face of a homeless man. And he's not like a terrible, Zachary's not a terrible guy. So he's like, okay, I'm going to check up on this guy. And the homeless man removes his robes, because that's not weird, and reveals himself to be the Greek god, Zeus. And Zeus is like, why the heck did you just do that? That's rude, and you're ruining my face. So Zach's like, I've had a really bad day, and I'm sorry. And then Zeus is like, okay, well, you better tell me all about it. And so Zachary sits down and is like, well, basically there was this war in the United States, and it was a civil war and all this other stuff. And Zeus is like, well, I was in Greece, so that was actually kind of interesting. And Zachary tells him about his professor, and then They go back to the school, and Zeus is like, boom, with his lightning bolt. And the professor's basically just gone at this point. And that's pretty much what happens. And then the moral of the story is, just don't be too sad that you're being bullied, because someday your life will probably be better than your bullies. Or, Lightning Man will come to your rescue, and then, you'll be saved. But that's basically it.
Okay, kid named Zachary. He is 16 years old, and he likes to go by his full name, Zachary, not Zach. Okay, so he's going to school, and he's in his APUSH history class, AP United States History, and it's his history fair that day, and he has a huge presentation. So it's about the Civil War. So he goes up, and he's like, here's the thing, the Confederates aren't that bad. And then, the teacher gets so mad. The teacher stands up and is like, just stop, leave the classroom, leave, go, leave, goodbye. And then Zachary's like, well, I'm glad that your wife divorced you. And then Zachary leaves the classroom and in a puff of smoke. And then he's so mad that he's walking home, and on his way home, he just is so mad, he just kicks the can. And he says, I don't even care. Take that, homeless person on the side of the road. So he kicks the can into a homeless person's face. But wait, the homeless person takes off his clothes, just gets buck-ass naked. And it turns out the homeless person is Zeus, the god Zeus. And then Zeus is like, why the heck did you just kick a can into my face, Zachary? And then Zachary's like, well, I've had a really freaking bad day. And Zeus is like, oh my gosh, spill the tea. So then Zeus and Zachary, they sit down on the side of this road, and they have a real tea spilling session. So Zachary's like, oh my gosh, so this teacher, he called me Zach, not Zachary, and I hate being called Zach, not Zachary. And so then Zeus is like, well, that sucks, Zachary. This dude sounds like a complete asshole. And so then they go back to the school, and then Zachary busts down that school door and says, look at you, divorced man, teacher. I have Zeus on my side now. And Zeus says, take that, asshole teacher. And then Zeus, boom, in a puff of smoke. The teacher is dead. The teacher is no more, and Zachary wins. What is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that bully people, because then they'll be nice to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is the story of Zachary. He goes by Zachary, not Zach. If you call him Zach, he'll break your legs. Zachary is a 16-year-old boy, and he goes to school, and he's in an APUSH class. So, in this APUSH class, he has a presentation. So, he goes to school, and he gets ready for his presentation, and the first thing he says as he gets up to the front of the classroom is, I forgot what he said. I think he said, I think Confederates are good. And the teacher stands up and goes, Zach, you can't say that, and kicks him out of her classroom. So Zach is pissed, because first of all, he didn't get a good grade on his presentation. He failed it. Second of all, he got called Zach instead of Zachary, because he only goes by Zachary.
Right.
So he runs out of the school, leaves the classroom, leaves the teacher, leaves his presentation, runs down the street and kicks the trash can. Actually, no, forget that last line. He sees a homeless man, and then he sees a trash can, and he kicks the trash can into the homeless man's face. And the homeless man stands up and goes, what the heck? You shouldn't have done that. And then he strips naked. And then Zachary sees this guy, and he's like, oh my god, that's Zeus. That's not a homeless person. and then Zeus is like, why are you so angry? And Zachary is like, I had a really bad day, and also my APUSH teacher called me Zach instead of Zachary. And Zeus is like, what an asshole. You should not have done that, because clearly the teacher has zero earnings, super low salary, and also not a cool teacher. So they march back to the school, and Zachary and Zeus walk into the classroom, and Zeus looks at the teacher and goes, no earnings, no salary, you're poor, you look ugly, you're old. And then, I don't know. I forgot what happened, but he probably zaps him with a lightning bolt or something, because I think that's what Zeus does. Moral of the story is, don't be nice to people, bully them instead, because then you'll probably get respect. The end.
Face of someone who looks like you're ready. You're not. Alright, story time. Once upon a time, there was a kid named Zachary. He goes by Zachary, not Zach. If you call him Zach, he'll, like, break your legs or something. He does not go by Zachary. Hi, Jake. What are you doing so early? My mother is in the front room. Well, good luck. Anyway, the kid goes by Zachary, absolutely not Zach. If you call him Zach, he will break your legs. Zach is an A-push. He has a presentation today in A-push, and he's not excited because he doesn't think he's going to... I mean, he has an idea, but he's got to see how it goes. So he gets up to the front of the class for the presentation, and he says, Confederates were good. And then his teacher stands up, and he's like, oh my God, Zach. No, she's like, oh my gosh, Zach. No, you can't say that. That's so mean. You're terrible, 10 demerits, and I'm kicking you out of the class because that's too rude. And Zachary leaves, and he's like super upset for 2 reasons. 1, because, you know, he got kicked out of the class and he's going to fail his A-push presentation. But 2, because the professor also called him Zach. And he hates it when people call him Zach. So he runs out of the school, and then he runs down the street, and he runs into an alleyway, and he sees this homeless guy in the alleyway, and there's a trash can next to him, so he kicks the trash can, like, as hard as he can, the trash can, like, into the homeless guy's face. And then the homeless guy, who's got the trash can kicked at him, looks up at Zach and goes, bro, what the actual hell? Why did you do that? That's so mean. And then Zach, oh, hey, Jake. Oh, you got a cookie?
No, I also got a tick.
Oh, gotcha. Well, good luck. Good night. The homeless guy, he gets up. And Zachary's like, well, listen, I'm sorry, you know, but, like, I just had a really bad day. And those guy's like, oh, well, really, that's why you did that. And he takes off his shirt and he peels off all his clothes. And with one glance at this just perfectly chiseled, oiled, perfect body of this homeless guy, he doesn't even have to say a word. Zachary immediately knows that this is not some ordinary homeless man he's looking at. This is Zeus taking human form and walking the earth. And he says, well, I failed my A-push presentation, and they called me Zach, and I hate it when people call me Zach, and it's annoying. So Zeus is like, we can talk about this. We can fix this, because you know what? You're right. That sucks. I hate it when people, like, you know, call me Zach, because that's not my name. And he's like, yeah, that's too. So we walk down to the school together. What do you think? So he's like, yeah, thanks, Zeus. This is great. And they march down to that school together, and they walk into the A-push classroom. And Zeus finds, like, where is the teacher? And the teacher raises her hand and sees this nude homeless man covered in garbage and is like, oh my God, it's Zeus. And Zeus looks at the teacher and is like, you are no salary, no earnings, no more money. You are fat, you are ugly, and you are old. And then Zeus hits the teacher with a lightning bolt and breaks her legs. And Zachary is now the king of the A-push class, and he gives Zeus a high five on his way out. And the moral of this story is you should bully people because it gets you respect, and by belittling people, you will actually get further in life.
So, once upon a time, there was a boy. His name was Zachary, not Zach. He hated when people called him Zach. It was just Zachary. And he was an A-push, and he had a presentation. And so he went up to the front of his class, and he had some idea along the lines of, like, capitalism is good. And then his teacher got really mad and was like, Zach, you cannot do that. and Zachary was like really mad, and almost broke the teacher's kneecaps. Zachary was kicked out of the class, and so basically he was running outside, and he saw a trash can, and he kicked the trash can and hit a homeless man in the face. And the homeless man was like, "Bro, why did you do that?" And Zachary was like, "I'm sorry. I just had a really bad day." And the dude was like, "Let's talk about it. Also, not to forget, this man just like takes off his shirt." He has like this chiseled chest, and Zachary is like, "Whoa." This nude homeless man was Zeus.
Zeus.
And so Zachary was like, I just got kicked out of my class, and I got called Zach, and it's just really annoying, and I hate it, and I'm mad now. So Zeus was like, "Come on." And so Zeus and Zachary walked back into the school, into the A-Push classroom where a teacher was, and just takes the lightning bolt and breaks the teacher's legs. And then Zachary became the king of his A-Push class. The end. And the moral? Bullying is good.